As a prerequisite to this course, you need to have installed Ubuntu and also ROS2. I will still give a few clarifications here and also show you quickly how to install ROS2 as a recap, just in case so you can get started with the course. First, you need to have Ubuntu installed. Here we will use Ubuntu 22.04 along with ROS2 Humble. The best option I will recommend here is to install Ubuntu using a dual boot, which means that on your computer, here you have Ubuntu on one side and then for example Windows or macOS on the other side. If you want to work seriously with ROS2, this is what you need to do. If you really can't do that, then you might try with a virtual machine, but I don't recommend it here because we are going to use Gazebo. And usually virtual machines don't work well with 3D simulation tools like Gazebo. If you use a VM, then go with VMware Workstation. They have a free version you can use, and better not to use VirtualBox for this course. As a parenthesis here, if you come directly from my ROS2 for Beginners course, so the level 1 course, then we have used VirtualBox. But this is just because it was easier to get started with not too much configuration and to focus on the ROS concept directly. Now, if you want to go to the next step, then stop using VirtualBox and use a dual boot, or if you can't, try with VMware Workstation. Alright, so once you have Ubuntu 22.04, let's see quickly as a recap how to install and set up ROS2. So you can just type install ROS2 Humble on Google. I mean, you will find this page quite easily, so the documentation page for ROS2 Humble. And on the installation, you will go to binary packages and Debian packages. You will have Ubuntu Debian packages, and here are the steps that we need to follow. So first I'm gonna type locale and make sure that you see the UTF-8. If not, you might just have to run those 4 commands, okay, so one by one. And then of course you verify again. So I already have the UTF-8, I'm not gonna do it. Then you can set up the sources, so you will be able to actually install ROS2 packages. And so let's just run all the commands one by one. Okay, and then this one, you can press enter to continue here. Then we need to run those 2 commands one by one. Okay, and that one here. And finally, we can add the repository to our sources so that it will be found in the next step. Okay, so for the sources, that's it. You run the 5 commands. And then if you want to install ROS2 packages, then okay, let's do clear here. Let's do a sudo apt update so that it will find the new packages, and then a sudo apt upgrade. Okay, so make sure you upgrade before you install, because you can see you may have some issues otherwise. So you upgrade here, you can see 0 upgraded, 0 new installed, 0 to remove, and 0 not upgraded. So everything is working fine. And then you can install ROS2. So here you have different options. Okay, you have the ROS Humble Desktop, the ROS Humble ROS Base, but what we need is the desktop one, because the desktop contains all of the 3D tools with RVs, with Gazebo, and so we need to install this with desktop. So I'm gonna install the desktop. So well, it's already installed for me because I've done it previously, but for you, but if you install ROS2 from scratch, it might download a few hundred megabytes of data and also install a few gigabytes. So make sure you have enough space. And once you have this, then you can set up the environment. So you have this script here, this bash script to source. Okay, that's in /opt ros and then humble setup.bash. So what you do is you can go, for example, to your bash rc. So I'm going to use gedit here, gedit, and then so that's going to be in your home directory, and then .bash rc. And at the end of the bash rc, I'm just going to copy this line here. Okay, so that every time I open a new terminal, then ROS is sourced. I save the bash rc, okay, and I quit. And now either you open a new terminal or you just source your bash rc, it's going to be the same. So now if I do ROS2 run, I just run this command here. You see I have the usage for ROS2 run. If you have ROS2 run command not found, then it's because you haven't done the correct steps. Okay, so now ROS2 is installed and correctly set up. So that was quite quick because, well, that's a requirement for this course already. And one thing I want to show you here is once you have installed ROS2 and set it up, you can run Gazebo like this with just Gazebo. So you run this command and it's gonna start Gazebo. So let's see this, and well, it might take some time. But what's important here, and to make sure that your computer is powerful enough, or you have, well, a system that's working correctly, is to see at the bottom here the FPS. So you can see here I have 62.5 FPS, which means that the image is refreshed at 62 Hz. Okay, if you have something that's lower, well, if you have something around 30 FPS, that's fine. But if you have something that's too low, let's say less than 10 FPS, then it's probably that your system is not good enough. So either you are using a virtual machine and it just doesn't work, so I suggest you install Ubuntu with a dual boot instead. Or if you're already on a dual boot, it's also possible that your computer doesn't have enough resources. Okay, here the computer I have is quite recent, and well, it's just like if you try to install a video game that was released last month. If you try to install this on a laptop that's 15 years old, well, you might expect that the video game is not gonna work. And that's the same thing with ROS and all the tools with ROS, okay? So if you have a computer that's really too old, really not powerful enough, that's not gonna work. Also, if you're thinking of running Gazebo on a embedded computer like Raspberry Pi, that's also probably not gonna work. So well, here you don't have to have a super powerful computer, but you need something that's quite decent enough. Alright, now you have ROS2 installed and set up on Ubuntu. You have seen how to test that your computer is good enough for Gazebo, and that's all we need to get started with the course.